All right. So thank you everyone again for joining. As I was saying just before I started recording to Sean and David, this is the first time that we're doing this, and it can go very well or very not well. It's still a big mystery what will come out of this. And if nothing, questions and things to research. But I think, or what I hope for today is that everyone has just a good time, is excited about this, and just shares how you feel about this user journey. What are your assumptions, hypotheses? What do you think, basically? No judgment at the moment. That will come much later in time. Right now, it's just having fun and outputting ideas, thoughts, questions that you have. Okay, so before we get started, what I really want to do, and I try to do this every time I get a bunch of people in the room, and Andre is already familiar with this every month when we do the prioritization session. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do is in the chat using the emoji picker to express yourself and let everyone know how you're feeling today. And I'll do the same at the end of the session so that we can calibrate and see if everyone is feeling better or not. So I'll give everyone a moment to do that. All right. Andres is in the reflective mood. What does that mean, Michael?
I typed it wrong. It's persevere, the emoji for persevere. Like prior to this, I was feeling pretty tired, but I had a chat with Marcel before this, and a chat with someone else, and that actually gave me a lot of energy. So yeah, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, David. I don't think I have been given access to edit the mural. Let me see. I think you're right. Let me try to, I think you're the only person. Yeah, and I don't think you've been given access to edit, but let me see if so what I can do now, and I can change that later, is that I will give anyone with the link access to edit. So let me paste that into the chat, the link. Although if you refresh, you might be able to try to type in one of the blank stickies. Let me know if that works, David. All right. Yeah, Michael, but yeah, thank you for sharing. And thanks for being with us. I know it's very late for you after dinner time. So let's try to make the best out of this time. All right. David, is that working now? All right. Awesome. Okay, before we get started, after watching the intro video, does anyone have any questions, thoughts, or comments that they want to share with the group?
I do have one question about scope.
Yes.
Is the ultimate plan of this to create user journeys for like all of the features across Create?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a very first step to create a user journey map that is just based on our hypotheses and assumptions, and is specific to one persona, the software developer persona that you can see at the top of the mural, Sasha. and also one specific job to be done. And we still don't know how this will pan out in the future, but what we will try to do, if all of this is successful, is to create more user journey maps that are linked to specific personas and different jobs to be done, and just show how that persona is able to accomplish that job to be done with GitLab. And initially, I was thinking about splitting the groups by stage group. So you would have a source code stage group doing this activity, code review group, editor group. But I thought it would be much better to have a more diverse audience with all of the groups mingled together, and not thinking about just their own features, but about everything that they know and that they think this persona experiences when they're trying to accomplish this job. So we're just doing this for this persona and job to be done. In the future, we will try to do more if this is successful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good question, Sean. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, I think we're good to go. So let me share my screen. And here at the top of the mural, let me see if I can try to summon everyone's attention to my, let me see where I can do that. I think there was somewhere, oh, I think it's here. Ask to be followed, okay. So here at the top, you can see a description of the persona that we're focusing today. And so this is Sasha. They have specific motivations and frustrations. Essentially, they are our main persona for, I believe, both code review, source code, and also editor groups. And this is the job to be done. So what Sasha is trying to do today is when product improvements are identified, that is a situation, they want to propose changes that address them, that is a job, so that I can help build a better product. That is the ultimate outcome, the desired outcome of all of this. And today what we're trying to do first is brainstorm alone and in silence the different steps that Sasha will perform either in GitLab, but also outside of GitLab. So if there are things that you think some teams do to accomplish this job to be done, for example, asking something in Slack or doing pair code review in person, or having a meeting to decide on the requirements before starting this journey. So there are many touch points that don't exist necessarily inside of GitLab. And today, this first part about the steps is our solution agnostic steps. So an example here of, for example, it could be for a music app, is being solution agnostic is determining what songs to listen in the moment. So this is a step that all users have to go through, regardless of what product or service they are using, and even if they're not using any product or service. So we're trying to think of steps that are solution agnostic. And if possible, try to keep to this structure of verb, object, and optional contextual clarifier. So in this case, determine is the verb, then the object is what songs to listen, and the optional contextual clarifier is in the moment. But this is if you can stick to that, better. If not, that's not a big problem. We can certainly clean them up later. And for this first step, which is to try to fill up these stickies here, and you can duplicate them by copy pasting it or pressing Command D, and it will paste another one beside it. Try to fill them out as much as possible across all of these different stages. And these are all, like a checklist. So if you don't think there's anything to add under locate, you don't need to add it. You can jump to the next one. So this is, and in the end, we might have some empty stages, and that's okay. But try to fill them up as much as possible. And don't worry if certain steps are not in the ideal stage, or if you don't think it belongs to one or the other, we can clean them up afterwards. And for this part, I will give 10 minutes. And as it says in the instructions, focus on quantity, not quality. And again, this is all just based on your thoughts. It doesn't have to be right, validated, or researched. Does that make sense? Any questions?
If we have duplicates during this phase, that's okay, right? Like,
yes.
That's the purpose of this. Yeah.
That's the purpose. And one thing that I'll experiment with today is to actually create a, let me see where I can do that, is to create a private mode so that you will see other people adding their thoughts on Stickies, but you won't be able to see what they're writing. And I'm still unsure if this is good or not, but we'll give it a try to see how that goes. So you won't be able to see what other people are writing, so that you can focus on your Stickies. And it doesn't matter if they're duplicated, because right after we do this small activity in 10 minutes, we will work together to group them and consolidate them and try to turn these steps into single Stickies, basically.
Pedro, before we start the activity, would it be possible to just talk through a very quick example?
Right. So one example is, as I was saying, is for this specific job to be done for this persona, could be to, before they even start doing this, is, for example, receiving the requirements for the product or something like that. So that could be something that they have to do before, is to receive them or to collect them. Then in terms of determining the objective and plan to approach to complete the job, they might have to, I don't know, reach out or collaborate with their peers to, I don't know, to understand what is the best way to approach this problem and these requirements. You know, like, hey, maybe I'm thinking about coding it this way, or using this library or something like that. So that is how they can plan to complete the job. And then they try to locate, gather the materials and information needed for the job. Might be to find existing files or things in the code base that they can reuse and that they will need to edit, modify, or extend, and so on. So after this, you go through all of these stages until the very end, where ultimately what I assume, and that is my personal view, and of course I might be biasing right now, is then creating a proposal that can be reviewed by others and that can be ultimately integrated into the code base. And maybe after that, they have some additional steps that they need to do after they've concluded it or not. Does that make sense? I don't want to go through everything. Okay. That's the activity for today, but does this give you...
Yep. That's a good start. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments? All right. Okay, so let's do this. I'll give 10 minutes. Again, focus on quantity nor quality. Try to fill out as much as possible all the different stages, and the timer will ring when it has finished. So 10 minutes, or actually, let me start private mode. Okay, and 10 minutes. Okay, let's go. Enjoy. Okay, so 5 minutes left. We're halfway. It's looking good, folks. Seeing a lot of stickies filled out. I don't know what's in them, but it looks good in terms of quantity. So keep that up.
It's like the advent calendar for the product people. Okay, 2 minutes left. One minute left.
Okay, time is up. Let's stop. I'll give just a few seconds if someone is still writing anything down. In the meantime, I will open or stop the private mode and reveal the Advent calendar. All right. This is great. And yeah, we got a lot of quantity here. And so now what we're going to do, and this is also, again, going to be a silent activity for 5 minutes, is that we're going to, everyone together, and they don't have to be neatly organized, but we're trying to group similar stickies into clusters. And you can do that below. So let me share my screen. In the blank area that is available below the gray stickies, you can drag them into clusters, and you can also drag them across. So if you think that a particular step is best fit under a specific stage, you can do that. And it's going to be a bit chaotic because some people have different thoughts than others, but that's okay, don't worry. And we can debate that afterwards. So right now, these first two activities, the first one we just did was create these steps. Now we're going to cluster them together. And after that, we're going to discuss how we're going to narrow it down and reach some agreement on it. Yeah, it's going to be for 5 minutes. Any questions before we get started?
I guess it's first come, first serve on this area. Eh?
Yeah. It's just, I think of it as a collaborative clustering, and we're all working together to be as fast as possible to cluster things instead of being just one person trying to do everything together. So if you want to make it easier, if you want, you can pick, for example, a stage. For example, imagine I pick the prepare one to start, and I start clustering here so that we don't all start with the before phase, for example. But yeah, 5 minutes will be more than enough time to cluster them, I think. All right. No other questions. Let's get this started. So 5 minutes on the timer, and I'll change the sound to a cello just for fun. Let's go. Okay, 2 minutes left. Okay, 1 minute left. I'll add some extra time if everyone thinks that might be helpful. Yeah, I'll add a few more minutes. So just to clarify, right now, the idea is just to group them. They don't have to be in orders. So it's just to find patterns, stickies that are very tightly related, or that could be just different ways of saying the same thing. So now we have almost all of them kind of grouped. And what I'm going to ask, if you're not doing this already, is just to take a quick glance at everything that's there to see if some groups, for example, in, let's imagine in the define stage, if they are repeated in the locate or prepare stage, because I saw some stickies across those three stages that were very similar. So we might have also duplicate groups right now. Okay, under a minute left. Okay, does anyone want a little bit more time to review them? It's okay, we still have plenty of time. So if someone needs more time, let me know. Okay, are we all good with, or more or less good with the clusters?
Yeah, the one big piece I had that I was just checking on is what actually concludes the entire job. For me, initially, it was everything is merged, but I also saw that MR is merged was in the monitor stage. And I wanted to make sure we all agree on what actually concludes the job to be done.
That's a great point. Okay, so well, we can now start everyone discussing the clusters now that we have organized it, and we can start with Marcel's question about what concludes the job. And to my understanding, I'll give my personal view, is that the conclusion of the job is Sasha proposing the changes that addresses them. So in this case, Sasha, or this specific job, is not about merging the changes, because this persona might not be the same persona that merges them and that reviews the code and ensures that it's all according to the standards. So in this case, Sasha's job is just to propose the changes that she thinks addresses the product requirements, not necessarily merging them. That might be the case, but we can also consider that a separate job, right? Because that entails a lot of other things that can be done by someone else. What does everyone think?
My spontaneous reaction would be, it doesn't have to be Sasha who merges it, but I still think it's included in her job that she guides it and shepherds it throughout the entire process. I would have seen the entire process of the MR basically in that job, and that would include responding to feedback. That would include making sure that everything is going through the entire process, so that the end for me was not only the first proposition of changes, but also continuous monitoring of it. And that concludes with the MR.
All right.
I can absolutely see the other points as well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think everything is in the open now, so that's also a reasonable approach. Sean?
Yeah, and just to add to that, also, we may have more than one MR for a given issue. And so there may be a step that Sasha will need to do at the end, which is to either the issue will be closed automatically, or Sasha will need to close the issue, or there might even be a feedback step where there's another interaction with the original issue author to just confirm that we've covered everything. Or
yeah, that makes sense.
And if you think about it, the iterations of proposals are also proposed changes. Like the way that that Sasha handles the feedback, she should also have to provide more proposals. So I think it fits, even if it's broad.
Right. And that, Sean, what you were hinting at, is there a specific step that already captures that thought?
yeah, I think I had, where was it? Under, under conclude, we've got all the MRs for the issue are completed.
All right. That makes sense.
And then I thought we had another one. Yeah, I think that's, in fact, the issue might close itself, but maybe Sasha needs to close it. But in fact, also in that same section under conclude, there's also the alternative path, which is Sasha does work, but kind of towards the end of the process, a decision is made that in fact the issue won't be fixed, and it's marked what won't fix and closed, which can sometimes happen, not at the outset, but later on in the process.
Okay. Yeah, just overall, David and Michael, do you have any specific things you want to address now?
No, all good from my side right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so far looking great.
Okay, okay. So what we'll do now until the remainder of the time is to try to decide on just one sticky that describes these clusters. And so we'll go through or try as much as possible to go through the all of the clusters that we have here. And I can write the one sticky that we can then move to these stages, to these steps here below the map. So we did this collaborative activity. Right now we'll decide on, for example, what is the sticky that describes all of these here. Whoops. I think I moved. Okay, I think I moved to sticky somewhere. I don't know where. And then we will move, or I can do that later, move that one sticky to the steps here. And again, these are solution agnostic, and maybe some of the steps that you had written here can then be used as actions that people perform, specific actions that people perform to that outcome, either inside of GitLab or outside of GitLab. So yeah, let's get started with, oh, there you go. I think this is the, let's just get started with this one. So receive email about product improvement change. The NPM determines that there's a duplicate issue.
Well, I think there's two clusters there, right? There's one cluster on the left, which is kind of get the issue or get the requirement, and then the second one is kind of scheduling it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on the left we've got, this is the requirement that's come in. So we could get that via an email, or we could discover it ourselves. And then the next step is, what do we do with that? Do we already? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In this case, it doesn't have to be perfectly worded. So let's just, I think this one might be a good one. So let's highlight this in yellow. Does everyone agree with this simple wording? Okay. And this one you were saying, Sean?
I mean, I would say the next one is to identify when it gets worked on. So we might have an issue, but we don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily go into Sasha's chain straight away.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the priority of the issue. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's write this as task and not necessarily issue, so that it's more solution agnostic. Okay, in this one, understand the contribution guidelines for the product. Okay. Okay, yeah. This is a big one. So I think this can be understand the project and its guidelines. So something like this. How does everyone feel?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, and there's also another one here. I mean, not only understanding the project, but there's one here that calls, make sure you have a local copy of the code. I think this is a separate step, right? So it's get access to the code base or something like that. Okay. Then we have engineer waits issue to estimate work. Create first plan how to build new improvement. Okay, let's talk about this one first. So this one is a lot here. right? It has many different things. But in the end, it's probably, I guess, collaborating with perhaps this one, collaborating with peers to plan best approach, regardless of how you do it. You know, there are different ways to do it, but the ultimate outcome is to plan the best approach with your peers. What does everyone think?
I agree, and I would actually consider adding the two sticky notes on the bottom left of this category as well. Search for any proposed solution and discuss on Slack if anyone has dealt with this issue. I think they belong to the same cluster.
Yeah, exactly. And these are very specific things. Okay.
But maybe, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that the engineer who weights the issue to estimate work would match the one on the previous category that the PM prioritizes? Because it's about prioritization. Because the EM engineer, it fluctuates, it's not always the same. But it's kind of like the same task, isn't it? Like to help with the prioritization. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it depends on the teams, right? But I would imagine that this can be perhaps two steps. So like a first estimation just based on receiving the requirements. And then once you have a plan on the best approach, you might revisit that weight after you have collaborated with your peer.
Okay. Let's keep it there for now. Then.
Maybe,
okay.
I don't know. Okay.
For the collaborate with peers to plan best approach, I'm wondering if that actually should be split into two different headlines, because one, we have the find the right solution, and then we have the collaborate with peers aspect to it. And I'm not sure if both of these belong to each other.
So what are you suggesting?
I could see something like this. Investigate potential solutions. And then but I can also see them. Yeah, now that I type them out. Now that I type them out, it actually makes sense to combine them. Yep, I take it back.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we can have the two of them if we want, because there can be like an individual activity first, and then you share that with others and you get their input.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think you might start to investigate it. And as part of that investigation, you might ask for help from peers, or you might ask them to validate your approach. Or you might also not need any help from peers, and you might be able to just do investigation of the solutions by yourself. So I think they're kind of interlinked, but they can be independent as well.
Right. And so in this case, the investigate potential solutions, I think, is related to these two stickies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there are other things that you can do as a part of investigating, but right now we're focused on, consolidating them into just one step.
And there's one more above, which is the search for any proposed. It's kind of the same thing. If there's something already in process.
Yeah. All right. Then here, be able to navigate the docs site. And read related technical documentation. So would this be part of investigating the potential solution, or I don't know what?
From my perspective, being able to navigate the doc site fell in line with locating the solution to problems, or if you're building out a feature, being able to locate the patterns we usually use for development at GitLab.
Okay. Okay. So that would be would that be get familiar with the specific parts that will be changed, or?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I suppose it's more related about locating the path forward rather than getting familiar with the specific change. But maybe that doesn't fit with this dynamic for Sasha.
Okay, so you were saying let's write that. Locate, what was it?
So locate supporting solutions, or the document that's going to support the solution.
Path forward, you said, David. That's a great phrase.
Say it again, Sean.
You said the path forward, which is a great phrase.
Path forward.
Okay. All right. And then this doesn't have to be perfect. We can roll with it, and yeah, don't worry that we will have two other groups doing the same thing, and in the end we will consolidate everything together, or at least try to. So no worries. Determine which project I should lodge the issue. Find a place in code base to make changes to. Okay. Okay, I think this one is okay. So this one is, I think, or at least these three here are about, just access to the project. And this is, I believe, something that might have come earlier here, understanding the project and getting access to the code base. What do you think? These ones here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not possible to do the analysis if you haven't already looked at the code.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's move these ones here.
In fact, we've got that back there already. Get access to the code base.
Mm-hmm. And then we have this one. Determine which project I should lodge the issue. I don't understand this one.
Yeah, that one's me. The reason I put that one there is, yeah, if I work in a big organization and I was like trying to figure out like, oh, I want to make a fix to this thing, do I put it into like the main application, or do I do it on like the iOS application? Within the world of GitLab, it'd be more like, which stage group do I put this label to? That is the thing that, or like, who should I notify? So that was the ethos behind that sticky.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this one also is engineers reviews existing code base. I think it's is that similar to investigating potential solutions, or would that be related to this one, David, that you were saying, locating support and documentation path forward? Would that be part of this or something separate?
Yeah, I think that could be considered as part of it, because essentially what it translates into is Sasha is going to look either through the GitLab code base or through the documentation that we provide to see if there's previously established patterns to solve the problem she's trying to solve, which I think is where most ICs generally begin.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is, I think, again, similar to investigating potential solutions, but it's a bit more practical and hands-on, that you're looking at the code base itself to find those patterns. So we can maybe do review code base or look for usable parts in the code base or something like that. Okay. Anyway, we still have a few things here to go through, and we're out of time. But what I will do is, after we end this, I will go through these myself and add these yellow stickies here, and then move them down to the steps area here. And the next phase will be an asynchronous individual work. So between tomorrow and the 15th, what I recommend everyone doing is setting aside, if possible, 2 hours of focus time during this period of time between the 1st and the 15th of December. And the idea is to add stickies to each one of these sections here. So today we were collaborating on the steps, which I will add here. And you can add more steps if you want during that async period. But the idea is mainly to add stickies here to the actions, feelings, positive feelings and thoughts, or negative feelings and thoughts, pain points and opportunities for improvement. And just fill this out as much as possible. And then after that, you have the rest of the instructions here. But right now, that is the main activity that we will all do async. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts?
Real quick, Pedro. So in the
Yes.
async activity, we're doing essentially the same thing in the same method as what we did here.
Yes.
Quantity over quality.
Yes.
For each of those sections.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Here
okay.
now in this part that's called map for the actions, feelings, pain points, and opportunities. So
Okay.
all of this that is blank here, try to fill it out as much as possible.
Okay.
All right. And then after that, we will review all of that together in a wrap-up session, but you will get all of the instructions in due time. Right now, just focus on that part. And in any case, I will ping you all again in this issue so that you can look at the instructions. So yeah, parting thoughts is, if you still have a bit of time, to share your emoji of how you're feeling right now after this session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. And let's see how everyone is feeling. All right, everyone is feeling excited. I think some questions lingering of how we will do this, but it was very good to have you all here. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and week.
Thanks, Pedro.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.